Alright, so according to the specs on this, it's supposed to be able to hit roughly 40 miles an hour with a rider up to 250 pounds. I'm 50 pounds shy of that. I only hit about 35 miles an hour maximum speed, and it took a little while to get there. So what I could tell when I was giving it throttle, it seemed like 3/4 throttle was kind of the sweet spot, and then it started dying after that. So it could be a spark plug, not a hot enough spark. It also could be a fuel restriction, you know, the muffler, excuse me, exhaust restriction. And it also could just be a lack of fuel, you know, fuel restriction somewhere. So let's get this box back off. Let's see, it says that the spark plug gap is 0.8 to 0.9 millimeters. Idle speed in neutral should be about 2,000. And it looks like my intake and exhaust valves are supposed to be 0.1 and 0.19. So 0.1 on the intake and 0.19 on the exhaust. Of course, when it's cold. Like I mentioned before, this fuel filter is sitting on here backwards. So I can't really see how much dirt's inside this thing. We know we had dirt coming out of the tank. Let's get this fuel filter out of here and see if potentially it's actually got dirt inside it. So like I said, the gasoline, the way they had it set, the gas was coming into the inside of the filter and then goes through the filter out, right? But not really seeing a restriction there. Actually looks fairly clean. Let me see if I have one of these. Alright, so I found this one. You can see there's an arrow for fuel flow, and then I don't know if y'all can see the filter. I'll try to get a light on there. So the filter, it's kind of one of those screen filters versus being that big paper filter. So let's put this on, see if it makes a difference. Let's also check out the spark plug too. Okay. That side and that side. It's like spark plug access is down here. Feels like a 5/8. It's a little bit fouled. Not too bad though. Let's check the gap. All right, 0.8 to 0.9 millimeters. On a regular gapper, I'm sitting at 32 thousandths. Let's see how that compares. Yeah, it says it's 31 thousandths, 31 and a half thousandths for 0.8. So the plug's right on the money. Let's just clean it off real quick and get that put back in. All right, just curious if this thing's failing under higher RPMs. Nope, doesn't appear to be. So I don't think our spark plug is a problem. We haven't ruled out a weak coil or a faulty plugged up fuel pump, plugged up exhaust. Let's do a compression test on it. I'm going to put the spark plug into the motor here where it's got a ground. I know there's been a lot of confusion lately about how to do compression tests and whatnot. This is a 4-cycle motor. It has an intake valve, so you do have to hold the throttle wide open when you're cranking it. Oh yeah, I was still building compression. I was up to 100 and 180, and I was still building. So it's not a compression problem. We haven't ruled out valves yet. All right, I don't know if y'all have ever seen these. It's just a spark plug installation boot. You can use a piece of rubber hose, an old fuel line, things like that. But when you can't reach one, you can use this to help you get started. And there's no way for it to cross thread because it will start slipping before it starts cross threading. We still haven't found the smoking gun yet. Unless that fuel filter was hiding some varnish that we just couldn't see with the light. Well, it looks like to adjust the valves, I got to pull this cover back off again. Actually, I got to pull a lot of stuff off. I got to pull the whole floor plate, all that stuff back off. Let's get the boot put back on. Forgot to grab that. I did check the lead on the end of this high tension wire. I'm really leaning towards checking these valve clearances. Let me get all this plastic off of here again and get back to it. I'll bring you guys back. All right, y'all, I hope this was worth it. A lot of effort. Alright, right now the exhaust valve is closed, which means I should be able to adjust the intake valve. Alright, intake valve is 0.1. The closest I have is a 0.102. That's pretty close. Alright, intake valve is closed. Alright, I had to pull a fuel tank out the way. So the exhaust valve is 0.19, give or take, I'm sorry, yeah, 0.19, give or take 0.03. So I'm measuring the valves right here. There's a cap right here. That's how you set your valves. Okay, so intake valve is in the open position right now. The lobe is complete opposite side of the exhaust. Can I get a 0.2? Just barely. Alright, valves are good. I feel like this fuel pump has been removed before, and it looks, I mean, I don't know if it looks new or not. It's pretty doggone clean. And the metal bracket that would have held it down is all messed up. I'd like to look at that fuel pump. There's a 10mm bolt back here that's holding this down. So this fuel pump looks like it's accessible from the outside of the bike. From back here. So it's very possible that's why it was mounted that way. So let's clamp that fuel line off and see if we can find any markings on this thing at all. I'm running out of small clamps. There we go. plus and a minus on here. 12-volt POM. I would think if this was a Honda, it would actually have its logo somewhere on here. All right, so this is definitely not a Honda fuel pump, but I did find the one that this actually is. It's got that little eye on it. 12-volt POM, slightly different. And there's a whole bunch of these brands out there. They're advertising a whole bunch of these things because it's 25 bucks. Compared to the Honda OEM model, made in Japan, it's got this, you know, that logo on it, things like that. So it's not a genuine OEM fuel pump. Yeah, I'm really on the fence about this. It looks like it should work. The thing is, these things, they're all over Amazon and the web and everything, talking about how they don't last long. Bike starts stalling, it stops producing as much fuel as it needs to, things like that. And it sure feels like a fuel starvation problem. Carburetor's clean, fuel supply's clean. There's no other check valves or anything all the way through that fuel line. The valves are adjusted. I've got good compression. Unless the CDI box is dying, you know, which I don't believe that to be the case. It's just a guess. I really think that this fuel pump is probably to blame. There's such a common failure on these things. The Metropolitan and the Honda Ruckus, I guess. There's such a common failure. All right, I thought of one more test to try. So I put the fuel pump back in. I just hate the fact that it's running. It's just not running completely. And I believe that this pump only kicks on right at the beginning. And then the fuel's allowed to flow. By the way, if anybody is wondering, I cut the fuel line where where the vice grips were, just to make sure if it got damaged, it's okay. All right, y'all, here's the best test that I can come up with. So right now, the fuel tank's hooked up to the pump. I've got the pump itself back probed, so the connector is in where it's supposed to be. Then the fuel line comes out, going through the filter, and I've got it coming up here into a glass jar. Let's see how this thing behaves. And a light on. All right, so key on. It's like it's sending pulses of voltage. Okay. Well, let's see what happens when we crank it. There is no way that thing's running out of fuel. And as soon as I shut it off, I actually heard the pump kick on. But I mean, it's not running out of fuel. There's no way that carburetor is burning that much fuel. All right, we've got a scope hooked up. I see it on the trace. I hear it running. I see it pumping lots of fuel. So maybe we're not dealing with a fuel pump issue. Let me keep scratching my head on this one. So I thought of something, or I found something that I don't know that it's really that critical, because I was checking everything over and I was just about to pull the carburetor off again. And I looked at this intake clamp. This intake clamp spins. It has, yes, I tightened the heck out of it, but what it has is it has a spacer on the clamp to keep you from over tightening it. But the simple fact that it spins tells me that the carburetor spins. And that could be caused, like I said, for the battery rudely interrupted me. If I've got an air leak here past the carburetor, it doesn't look like much of an air leak, but obviously it's enough to make that, allow that carburetor to turn. If I've got an air leak here, I've got more air being introduced than what the metered fuel is supplying. So I think I want to pull this clamp, and to get this clamp off of here, well, I could probably pull that little spacer out, just grind it down just a little bit, or just take that spacer completely out and just be careful tightening it up. I think I'm just going to go ahead and pull this carburetor one more time, make sure that that fast jet is open, and possibly open it up just a little bit more. Go ahead and fix this clamp. We'll give this thing a try again. Like I said, it could have been this filter. I doubt it. That other filter looked really good. I thought it may be the pump. It's not the pump. The pump looks like it's working just fine. It's not valve lash. It's not compression. The spark plug looks good. It's gapped right. Unless this coil is dropping out, which it doesn't feel like, I feel like I'm losing fuel. Let me keep digging into it. Let me get this carburetor off of here. Y'all saw me do it once. You don't have to watch me do it again. Get this carburetor back on the bench and get that main jet out one more time. So I pulled out the main jet. It's not clogged. Let's find out what size it is. Oh, that lucky guess. I hit it right on the first try. So it's a size 69 jet. Let's bring it to a 67. We'll go up 2 sizes just to give it a little bit more fuel. You can see it doesn't take much. I think passed through pretty easily. We'll put that back in. So we're giving it just a little bit more fuel at fast. Because honestly at startup and at idle, which should be these two, that thing runs just fine. So this is our main jet, straight into the throat of the carburetor. Once you give it throttle and this valve here comes up, it's allowing fuel past that. All right. I'll get it back on the bike. Y'all, I found the problem when I was putting the carburetor back on. Remember, this was the clamp that I said was it wouldn't tighten down far enough. All right, so check this out. I'm not sure that this was broke. I think I broke this part, taking it off of there. This part. See that? See that gap that's in there? And you can kind of see it right in there. I'm almost positive. I don't know if you can see that. It's right there at the tip of my fingertip. Almost positive that that crack on this intake is my problem. Anyway, I need an intake boot. All right, I'm gonna order an intake boot and meet back up with you. All right, y'all, new boot came with new clamps. I went ahead and replaced this hose. I just didn't like, I had some 3/16 hose, so, and I didn't like that other hose having to have that wrap around it. So I replaced that as well. Carburetor's back on. I need to hook up the throttle cable real quick. Otherwise, everything else is done. let me get this thing all buttoned up, and then we'll give it a try and see if all of those repairs actually did something. That battery really did. Well, I would have done a cold start for you guys, but the battery was dead, so I jumped it. I was fixing the brake light last night, so she's running. Let's see if we can see what kind of speed and stuff she gets up to. Hope y'all don't get motion sickness. You're riding backwards. Yeah, about 35 going mostly downhill was about the best I could do. Shadow's kind of low. I think right about there. Maybe a little more. Yeah, I think right about there. Oh, that battery's getting low. Jump it one more time. Yeah, let me put the seat back on. Alright, other than needing to jump start it, she ran pretty good. Didn't, when I went to wide open throttle, it wasn't bogging like it was before. I fixed the brake light. New front tire, new air filter. Adjusted the brake handles so that the switch was working properly. Basically what happened was the light bulb burned out because the switch was always on because the handle was loose. Just adjusted a fitting up in here. Runs pretty good. A little small for me, I think, but maybe if I got used to it. Everything seems to work alright. Not bad for a little 50cc. Hope you all got something out of the video. Really appreciate you watching. I'll catch you guys on the next one.